Thanks for stopping by for my review of Pokémon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity. In this video review, I will discuss my impression of the story, gameplay, aesthetics, and audio of Gates to Infinity. I will also reveal what I consider to be the best and worst aspects of the game. Finally, I will give my recommendation of who I think would enjoy this game. It starts with the player character dreaming about being chased by a Hydreigon before waking up to find that they themselves have turned into a Pokémon. Out of the available 5 Pokémon, I chose to play as Tepig named Napoleon, and chose Axew as my partner. The other 3 options are Oshawott, Pikachu, and Snivy. I woke up to a very excitable Axew, who told me that I fell from the sky. I told Axew that I used to be a human turned into a Pokémon and was believed without question. Far too trusting if you ask me. Somehow my Tepig ends up becoming friends with Axew, who is actually really nice and has a strong sense of justice. Axew brought me to the first mystery dungeon on the way to a real estate investment. Apparently, vast wastelands are the hot properties on the Pokémon world. There Axew naively hopes to make a paradise to live in, and I have nothing better to do, so I agree to help him. After a night sleeping on the ground, we headed into Post Town to find us a contractor to build a home. At this point, I am scrambling to find the settings to make the pages and pages of text go any faster than watching paint dry. The story is cute, but chock full of useless background information that could be sprinkled throughout the game. At this point, I was still assuming that all the dialogue text was setting up the game. After bumping up the text speed to fast, I realized that I had gone from the entertainment equivalent of collecting molasses in January to driving in a no-cross lane behind a moped. I felt like my face was going to melt from boredom. But I persisted, in the vain hope that eventually the game would actually just let me play instead of hearing the entire life story of every Pokemon I met, and I met a lot. At one point, I was talking to a grumpy girder about getting my house built when I got distracted by the TV show I was watching because I had to do something, and looked down to find that I was still scrolling through text 15 minutes later. Eventually, Axew and I start a business helping Pokemons by entering mystery dungeons. We actually got rolling on visiting some dungeons, and I started building my team. I thought the game would finally start to get exciting. The only gameplay hitch so far was the clumsy handling, but I had learned to compensate. Then, I gave my 3 teammates free rein to explore the dungeons on their own. They would run around defeating enemies and collecting loot while I found the entrance to the next level. The already halting motions of my character drastically worsened because every time anything happened to a teammate, I was stopped dead in my tracks. I felt like I had no control over my character, and just moving around the dungeon became a huge pain. The combat suffered from the same problem. I often couldn't get my character to face the right direction so that I could attack. Really, just about the only thing that is good about this game is the design. In fact, it's downright adorable. All the character models are so round and cute and colorful. I just want to cuddle them all, especially my little Tepig with his little curly tail and little pink snout. So cute. Each of the Pokemon have endearing little facial expressions to show how they are feeling during the unbearably massive amounts of dialogue. Somehow the whole game becomes even more ridiculously adorable in 3D because the Pokemon look all so squishy and huggable. It's about almost as cute enough to make me wish that I could live in the Pokemon world, but then I remembered how talkative the residents are. Oh, how I longed for the days when Pokemon could only say their names. The music is bright, bubbly, and catchy. I don't know why, but I enjoy the music of other Pokemon games, but not the RPGs. I think that's because the RPG music tends to be fast and ominous, while the other genres of Pokemon games have a more laid-back, relaxing soundtrack. With all the painstakingly slow dialogue, the music was the only saving grace because I at least had something calming to listen to. The best thing about this game is kind of part of the worst aspect. That's confusing, I know, but let me explain. Sometimes during the unnecessary monsoon of text, the Pokemon will have moments of pure cuteness when they are expressing their emotions to each other. The friendships between all the citizens of Post Town are really important to the characters, and they all wear their hearts on their sleeves. That kind of display of uninhibited emotions is actually really refreshing coming from a game. The worst aspect is, of course, the overwhelming amount of pointless dialogue, combined at the snail's pace at which it scrolls. Seriously, I have never before this game rage quit because there was too much dialogue to read. I play Fallout games. I purposefully read the books in Elder Scrolls games for fun. The phrase "too much to read" has never before fallen from these lips. Everything has changed. The world no longer makes sense because of this game. The replayability of Gates to Infinity is probably great for someone who enjoyed playing it. The dungeons themselves are randomized, so starting a new game will provide a new experience. I think it is an interesting idea to make a Pokémon dungeon crawler, and I haven't played any of the other Pokémon dungeon games, so I thought that this would be a good opportunity to try this classic genre with a familiar theme. Unfortunately, there is a simple lack of execution due to the dialogue issues and the clunky handling. I really love the Pokémon franchise probably because I was brainwashed as a child to love it, but Gates to Infinity did not tug on my heartstrings enough to forgive some obvious missteps by the developers. Thankfully, not everyone in the world shares my taste. Some people love a steady stream of hokey dialogue and could more easily forgive the awkward handling. For those of you who love dungeon crawlers and ridiculously adorable Pokemon, this could be your game. So do you plan to pick up Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity? If you already own Gates to Infinity, let me know your impression of it down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, love and peace from my PC to yours.